Welcome to Talk of the Town. This is an official podcast from the town of Pinetop-Lakeside to expand upon community topics shared through the Talk of the Town newsletter. Here we will give you more detail, respond to questions, and deliver information about community news and happenings. Hey, it's Rob Hefner. We're here with the Talk of the Town podcast for the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, hanging out in the wonderful Winterland. This is going to come out a little while afterwards, but we're freezing cold this morning. This is an episode a lot of people will probably want to listen into, and maybe a few times. It's a topic that got a lot of misunderstanding, and it's complicated. So it's not like it's straightforward and everybody does it every day. So that's why there's nothing wrong with that at all. I've got with me today from the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest, Josh Miller. Yes, I read your name tag. You like that? He was like, how's he doing that?
I wore it for you, Rob.
Thank you. So, Josh, what is your position here in town?
Well, good morning. Like Rob said, my name is Josh Miller. I am the district ranger here on the Lakeside Ranger District for the U.S. Forest Service on the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest.
Awesome. So I'd reached out a little while ago, and of course we got, because it's a United States federal thing, we got other people involved. They came back in. We had some questions. So these are straightforward. You already knew what the questions are, so we could get detailed answers. We're going to start right off at the top. Your first question is, what is, and I actually probably using the wrong term, a land swap?
A land swap. So you're correct in the fact we're using some wrong terminology there, Rob. More formally referred to as a land exchange. Simply put, this is the process of exchanging federal lands with private property lands. So there's multiple steps involved in something like this. But the first step is an individual would come to, in this case, me as the district ranger on Lakeside or other designee with a proposal that includes a map. It'll show the property proposed to be exchanged, and then the forest would do a review of the proposal to see really if the proposed federal tracts are identified as exchanged lands in the Forest Land Adjustment Plan. I know that's a lot, right? That's
right.
A mouthful alone.
So that's what a land exchange is. So land exchange is where you actually got physical property being exchanged for physical property. There's another way for people to be able to get lands from the federal or the United States Forest Service, and that's called a conveyance. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, Rob. So a conveyance is generally when the Forest Service would sell a parcel of land.
Somebody just buys it outright.
Yeah, exactly. And there's several means for that. Sometimes it does require legislation to do that.
And we have an area like that, don't we?
We do. That would be the Woodland Lake Park tract.
Okay. And that had an act of Congress called I think it was called the Townsend Act. Is that correct?
The Townside Act.
Townside Act. Thank you. And that basically says that, that had come up in the open, the map discussion about the land use map, and somebody said, well, why is that listed as open? Open can be done if somebody, the owner, says that it's going to be sold. And that literally, the Townside Act says specifically that only the town of Pinetop-Lakeside can buy that area.
That's correct.
Okay, so now let's look at a process. So how long of a process are these two items, whether it be a land exchange or a conveyance or sale kind of a deal? How long do they take?
So both processes are going to take a long time, whether it's a land exchange or a conveyance. Timeframes can depend largely on how much land, where the land's at, specific issues related to that piece of land. But really, either way, typically they're going to take multiple years, in some cases, multiple decades to complete these. They're very large and complex.
Okay.
Process.
And most of that has to do with probably my next question, which is, how much is the public invited to give input on the process, and how is that done?
Sure. So there again, it's going to depend on the type of transaction, how large the land is, what's going on with it. Some of these can be done through the NEPA process utilizing a categorical exclusion.
NEPA. Okay.
NEPA.
What is that?
National Environmental Protection Act. So that's something that federal government, we have to do that for any project, any action that we take.
That sounds expensive and long.
It's both. Yeah, it can.
Okay. So that's what my next question then is what is involved? So you said NEPA's involved. So there's like environmental impact studies, I'm assuming?
Yeah, environmental impact studies. These are going to include, water rights, mineral rights. Of course, we have just the appraisals like you would on any type of property. Lots of survey, archaeology survey, wildlife surveys must be completed, full gamut of studies.
Okay, so nothing that's going to happen literally within a year or two. And then, like I said, public input. How many times do people get to input on this, and how are they made aware of it? Let's put it that way.
So it certainly does vary per the land that's being exchanged or conveyed. Anytime we go out for NEPA, we're going to do some sort of public scoping. And that really depends on the extent of the project. So something for like, say, an EA or an environmental analysis, that's much more detailed than a simple categorical exclusion, in which case we would go out to the local press, the local papers. We would give the public opportunity to comment, voice their opinions. We would likely hold public meetings and so forth, do what we could to circulate the proposal for feedback and comment.
Now, who initiates a land exchange?
This is the simple question. It's the landowner.
Okay.
That's it.
So somebody comes and says, hey, I've got land and I want to exchange it for your land, or vice versa.
That's correct. And so that goes back to kind of what we were talking about a minute ago. They would come to me as a district ranger with that proposal, but it needs to be the landowner. They'd have the map. They would have all the details associated with it. And then we would pass it through the ranks and the team on the forest and the regional office to utilize more expertise to evaluate the proposal and go from there.
Right. So does the United States Forest Service actively look for ways to make the forest more physically connected?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So actually, as an example, the Lakeside Ranger District, currently we have 4 lands projects right now that involve 6 separate parcels of land. They're all in different stages of the processes. They include both land exchanges and conveyances. That's just on our one little district alone.
Okay.
What we're looking for is trying to avoid fragmenting land ownership,
right,
and having more continuous land ownership, if that makes sense.
So making the forest all one part versus having a spot over here, like we have with county islands. That's sort of like the same thing. You look at the town and some people get confused because like, well, I'm not in the town, so I don't get to vote, and they're in a county island and things like that.
Yeah, that's correct. When we have those islands, the Forest Service, we still have responsibility for the land management of that island.
Yeah.
For instance, whether it's fire suppression, forest health, restoration, so forth.
Okay, final question here. Are there any areas connected or adjacent to the town of Pinetop-Lakeside that are currently part of a land swap? Or land exchange, I should say. I had swap because I was asking the wrong thing. Good.
So currently there are no lands connected to or adjacent to the town of Pinetop-Lakeside that are involved in or part of any land exchange.
So when we've heard that Billy Creek has something going on or anything else, there's nothing that's going on. There is no land exchange even started.
No, there's no land exchange started connecting any part of Pinetop-Lakeside, and nothing planned at the moment.
Awesome. So if people have questions and they want to know more, how do they get a hold of the United States Forest Service, or maybe even you direct?
I'd encourage folks just to come into the office, Lakeside Ranger District, come in and give us those questions. We can talk in more detail. I know this was kind of a broad overview on some of these things, but we'd be happy to sit down and visit with anybody who has questions, and hopefully that'll help.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Once again, it's Josh Miller with the Apache-Sitgreaves National Forest. That's it for the Talk of the Town. This time, I'm Rob Hefner. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, drop a line or stop right in here at Town Hall.